G'day and welcome back to my channel. Now I got this great present from Bernard for Christmas. It's a sailing ship. He knows I love them. And Nippon Maru, one I have never built before. But there's a bit of a problem. It's 1/350 scale. Now that's okay for a big battleship. You know, I built a lot of those at that scale. But a small sailing ship, well, they end up being pretty bloody tiny and fiddly. But nevertheless, this kit was quite a surprise. It is a joy to build. It was a lot of fun to do a little bit extra scratch work on, and rigging really wasn't that hard either. I spent the last month and I built it, probably the fastest ship I've ever built. So let's have a look at the box open, what you get, and then my whole build. Roll the credits. So, the box. Now there's a lot of really good pictures on the side to give you an idea what the kit's going to look like, and some shots of the ship, and they even give you some references, which is really good. Lots more online. This is quite a famous ship, and so it's very easy to find. It's still about, basically still sails. So it's very easy to find photos of it in various states. It's been painted a few different colours over the year. You can do it fully rigged with all the sails, or you could do it sitting in dock as I've done, which is just basically, you know, without the sails and just the rigging. So that sort of stands out. Now this one's by Lee. Originally, as far as I can tell, this kit was basically an EMA kit, right? EMA kit, and that came out in about 1977, and EMA had put that out for a number of years. Then Lee, according to Timeline and Scalemates, says this is a new tool. Don't think so. I've had a look at the MA kit. It looks exactly the same as this. In fact, they've used exactly the same artwork. It's basically the MA kit with just a Lee branding on it. But who knows? They say it's a new tool. Don't know. It is lovely and crisp and clean, but who knows? And then this was sort of put out in the mid-90s. And then in 2008, Aoshima also put this kit out. Same box art. Same everything, same sprues, you name it. Everybody's had a go. She's sort of like the town bike. Everyone's had a ride. But anyhow, it doesn't matter. Lee, I've heard all kinds of strange things about them, but let's ignore that and just look at the kit on its merits, because it's actually very nice. So what do you get in the box? All right. Well, it's very nicely packed in that your instructions, your paint guide, and your sails, they're all pushed up here above a little cardboard separator, which is broken now because I took it out, and that kept all the sprues separate, which are all in their own bags. They've of course fallen out now because I've been working on it. And you came in three colours, so you had orange for most of the parts, which were basically the masts and the yards. You had red for the whole parts. You had gold or bronze colour here, which were the pedestals, which is rather nice, and then white for just about all the rest of the kit. The only problem was, as I found out as I built it, some of the parts on the orange sprues should be white, and some of the parts on the white sprues should be orange. You could still build it without painting it. It actually turned out quite nice. But as you'll see when we go through the build process, I actually needed to correct that. I couldn't. My OCD kicked in. Now you do get lovely sails. I didn't use them, but if you wanted to, you could do the whole thing with sails on, as they do in the box art. You do get this terrific guide to show you how to paint it, although it's it has a few errors. It keeps telling you the deck's black. Well, obviously it's not. If you have a look at photos of the ship, the deck isn't black. It's sort of wooden colour, tan colour. But most of it's quite right. Interesting thing here is they show the jackstaff here overlapping the boom. Of course, that'd be ridiculous. Every time they try to tack and change the boom, they'd be knocking their bloody flag down, wouldn't they? Absurd. So we'll talk about that later. I remedied that situation because that's just not cricket. Well, you just don't build ships that way. Sorry. Apart from that, everything's about right. They do show it here with a red hull, but I found photos where it had a green hull. As I said before, it's had a few different paint jobs. You could actually do it with a whole lot of, instead of the orange, you can do it with blue livery and different coloured masks and all the rest of it. So there's quite a few options out there how you could paint this kit, and you'll see I made my choices and I did it my way, which is kind of what I always do. Instructions, very simple. They give you a nice little history about the ship, which is quite good. This diagram here is invaluable if you're going to do the full rig, as I attempted to do. So if you want to do the full rigging with all the running rigging in there, that's on there, but that's not included in the instructions per se. It starts with building of the bow pieces and the various greebles, and then you go into the main parts for the deck, and then you build the cabin. It's fairly simple. There's quite a lot of bits and pieces to add here, and then you get on with the masts, and they're all pretty well the same. You mass produce those. Then you put these belay points in. Now this is where it gets fun, because they've actually given you, if you're not good at rigging or you're scared at rigging, this would be a great ship for you. They give you a very simple guide, and they do provide some rigging rigging line. It's a bit of a horrible orange, but there you go. I used some easy line black, but they do show you how to do the standing rigging, which is fairly simple, and that'll get your masts all lined up. And then they show you a very tricky way to get some rat lines in, because it's actually holes underneath the upper hull. The upper hull and the lower hull, you don't actually assemble those, put them together right at the end. And the reason for that is that you need to be able to get in underneath there to these little holes, and you run your thread in, out, back, down, through holes in the mast, and you can, with one length of thread, do a complete set of rat lines. So they show you how to do all that, and that'll give you a fairly good look, especially if you put sails on it. That's all you would need. You wouldn't have to worry about the running rigging. Lots of sails, 6 per mast, so there's 18, and then you've got basically two little spankers or at the back here. So yeah, it's quite a lot of sails if you're going to do the sails, but it's doable. It's doable. Lots of life ropes too. Life boats. Yes, as well. And they supply a little stand with it, which was a horrible green colour. I ended up painting. Didn't really like them. The instructions are pretty spot on. They're all marked clearly. They're very easy to follow. And as I said, you can do their rigging guide, which is fairly simple, and it's not far off the correct ship. And it's good enough for this scale, because you compromise a bit when you go to 1/350. There is no way you're going to get all the rigging on. Well, you could, but the thing would just be a massive spider web and a massive dust trap. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't waste your time. So the instructions are good. The paint guide was good. The parts, although I've cut them off the sprue, they were all very clean, very clean. There was virtually no flash in this kit. Everything was moulded fairly well. The only problem were a couple of the yards to go on the mast. Just one on each of the 3 sprues that were identical was overlapped. It was one of those sort of bad, that was like the moulded slip. But the strange part was, it was on all 3 of the sprues, and only for that one part. That was an easy fix, a bit of sanding. Apart from that, I basically just cut the parts off, glued them on, and away I went. And I did paint some things. And as I said before, you could just build this out of the box without painting, which was my original premise. I was just going to put it together in the weekend and not paint it, because it looked like it's already in the right colours. Let's just go for it. But no, of course, my OCD kicked in, and I like ships, so I know a lot about them, and I started to make additions, changes and modifications. So let's see that build process. Here's the kit before I started, and everything is in the bags, and you can see all the different colours of the sprues. First thing I did was work on the decks. They come in 3 parts, while the middle part deck is actually moulded to the upper hull. But I painted them by hand. I was pretty happy with that. And then I found a few of those parts on the white sprue need to be orange, and orange parts need to be white, and that's where all the painting started. I built the bridge up, and I was happy with that, but it just seemed to be lacking something. But talk about that later, because I started to add things, as is my want. Also added a little vents there. You can see all the little vents all through the decks. They were lovely, painted up nicely. So masts went on at this stage. They were fairly easy to put on. There's the red hull. Now, I really didn't like the look of that. It did not match the rest of the kit. But anyhow, I had a problem with one broken part, so I had to fix this little bracket. And in doing so, I used some evergreen sprue and some bits and pieces, and I built up my own part. I liked that so much that I did that for both of them, and realised I could stick a brass rod down the middle, which would be much better than actually having to clean it apart. Here's the bridge. I used some leftover photo etch, and I also added some more of that brass rod, and I detailed it up so it was more like the real ship. Bit of white paint on it, come up really nicely. Now I scraped the hull and got it all nice and smooth, ready for painting, and I filled a few little holes. There was one in the bow there, a bit of an injection problem. Bit of green Steiner res to get it going, not red, no green, and then I painted it that lovely emerald green colour, which I found in one of the photos of the ship. I also added a bit of a wash. I went around and picked all the little grates and hatches and bits and pieces, and it was starting to really come together. Got the easy line out to do the standing rigging, but when it came to the rat lines, I realised I had some leftover PE parts. So I cut those out to see how they'd look, and they fitted perfectly. So I was much happier to use those PE rat lines to give it just that extra lift, seeing as I'd gone to the trouble of adding all that PE on the front bridge anyway. So they all went in, and gee, they really did look the dog's business. Now you can see the kit looks almost finished there. You can put the booms and the sails on. There you go. Here's where I corrected the problem with the jackstaff, because it just overlaps. I filled in the hole. I made a little brass rod, which is better to scale, and I put my own jackstaff in a little further aft so that it missed that boom. Anyhow, now it was time to put the yards in, and there's a lot of them. And here's that one that was kind of a bit moulded badly. You can see the corrected one on top, the bow one on the bottom. It took a while, took a day or two to get all those yards cleaned up and put on, and then I started on the running rigging. And the running rigging was a much bigger job than I thought. It really was as much work as a big ship. I didn't have to put pulleys on it, but it still took me about 3 to 4 days to get all that running rigging on and get the ship completely rigged. But I think it was totally worth it. Here she is, all finished. All the rigging on, all the standing rigging there, which is in black easy line, and all the running rigging, which I used that horrible orange. But actually, it worked quite well because it does tone in nicely with the masts and the yards. And I've done it without the sails and in this special sort of double boomed arrangement, which I found from photo online. Found her in dock, and she had this sort of trick with the masts were together like that, with the booms were together on the mast. So it almost looks like it's only got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But actually there's 6 in there because those ones double up. So that all came together really well. I painted the base black because I really didn't like that horrible green. The brass on the pedestals was fine, left it as is. So to match that, I dry brushed the name with a bit of brass paint that I had onto the nameplate. That looks good, really happy with that. And of course I fixed the flag at the back there, the jackstaff, so now that boom can go back and forth. Not that it ever will, but you know what I mean. At least it's done, it's there. And overall, I mean, there are problems. There's a horrible join over here, which, you know, had I done it again, I probably would have put that deck in and puttied all that up before I painted it. But the instructions were to leave out this entire bridge section until after you had done all this rigging. But in the end I ended up using PE, so had I have known that's what I was going to do, but I was sort of making it up as I went along, I would have put that deck in and puttied that up and sanded it and painted all that well before I put any of these pieces on, because it was kind of too late by the time I got to this stage. But still, you hardly see it if you don't know it's there. Shouldn't have pointed it out to you. There's another horrible joint at the back here, but that gets hidden by lifeboats and a few other things. So, yeah, if I did it again, I'd put all the deck pieces in and I would putty them up, sand them smooth, and away I'd go. So there you go. So the Nippon Maru 1/350 scale from Lee, and also available from Aoshima. If you can find it, if you like this sort of thing, I can highly recommend it. It is a joy to build. It's a lot of fun, and you wouldn't even have to take it as far as I have. You could just build it out of the box and probably have just as much fun as I did. So there you go. How about that? Alright, well, we'll end this video with a montage of really nice photos over a background so you can see all the rigging and see all the detail bits that I've put into this. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope this encourages you that maybe a small sailing ship might actually be a fun thing to build. There you go. You never know. Alright, that's it. It's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.